How's it going, guys? So it's February something. I think it's like February 14th or 15th maybe. And we're down at the South Farm. And I wanted to show you the stark differences between North Farm snow. As you know that I'm always moving snow. You guys are like, man, Mike, why are you always moving snow up there? It's because I can't have any snow melt in that yard because I'm just sitting on a field. I don't have any gravel base or anything in there, so I can't have any snow melt in the yard up north. So I'm always pushing it all the time. But down south, at the South Farm, yeah, I know it's windy. It's always windy down here. There is no snow. Look at this. There's nothing. Zipple. Zilchy. Drive anywhere you want to. Check out the fields. So there's nothing that has told me that our drought has broke down here, which is actually quite concerning if you think about it. So this is lentil stubble. And as you know, since it didn't rain, and as you know, BASF pulled the plug after they told you that they wouldn't, and yeah, that's a whole gong show. But anyways, we're going to have Odyssey carryover. That's Group 2. It's guaranteed. It's guaranteed. Which is one of the reasons why BASF wanted to pull the plug last fall. They're like, holy crap, I think we're going to have a problem. So they jumped out. After they already confirmed to us that they would have our corners. But anyway, that's a whole other story. But going back into this, lentil stubble, we're going to have carryover. So what are you going to see there? Well, that's a really good question. There is a few options. You could put a clear field, because these are clear field lentils, I should state that, clear field. You could put a clear field canola in there, and that would be fine. But the problem with that is being how dry it is, and you know, down here on the best of years, even the best of years, we really struggle growing canola. We just simply don't get enough rain. So that's probably not a really wise idea. So your other option is spring wheat. You can't put Durum out here because the carryovers will seriously hurt Durum. As you saw last year, we had a lot of Durum wounded from Odyssey carryover the year before. So we know it can happen. It can happen very bad. So we can't put Durum out here, which sucks because that pretty much just leaves you with spring wheat. That's your toughest. Like spring wheat's tough as nails. Like it's one of the toughest crops you can put in. At least for us, you can handle the drought really well and handle dry, hot conditions, and it will take the pursuit the best. Problem with that is you know, we don't have enough spring wheat to put on all of our lentil acres, right? And it's very expensive. As you know, I already did a video. It cost us a ridiculous amount of money to go buy spring wheat. And no, BASF, they're not going to open up their pocketbook to help you go buy spring wheat. You're on your own for that. We're just going to pull in here. Oh, it's a little rough. You gotta try to get behind this wind because that wind is just not fun outside. Okay, so here is some Durum stubble from last year. Let's take a look at this. Shut my truck off here. So, this is Durum stubble, right? Doesn't really look like it. Doesn't really even look like stubble. Do you know how well this Durum crop went last year? This particular Durum field went 0.5 of a bushel. So that's, no, it didn't do a bushel an acre. It did a half a bushel an acre. That is how well this did. So here's the thing. This is Durum. What are we going to put on here? Now, typically we would be putting lentils back on top of this. This is what our crop rotation would normally, you normally want to have like a 3 or 4 year crop rotation. And we're going to talk about crop rotation in a minute, but first we're just going to talk about this Durum. So this Durum went about a half a bushel an acre, just due to it just did not rain. We seeded it. It didn't get 3 drops of rain until after we combined it. And I don't even know if we got 3 drops of rain after we combined it. But anyways, it doesn't really matter. So we have all our fertilizer still left in this ground. Like maybe we use 5-10% of it, right? So that means you have a lot of money in this ground. If you're wondering what that is, it's a badger hole filled with ice. Because fertilizer has 2 to 3 times itself in price this particular year. If you put Durum back on top of Durum, which is probably what we're going to do, you don't even have to fertilize. You just throw just a little bit of starter down, and because all your fertilizer from last year's crop is still in the ground. Okay? It didn't go anywhere. Well, Mike, that cannot be good agronomy. Like, you can't be putting lentils on top of lentil stubble, Durum on top of Durum stubble. Like, what kind of farmer are you? Well, let's talk about that for a second. As previously explained, we're going to have carryover in our lentils. So we know we can't put Durum on that. And BASF has already left the table. So we can't do that. That's out. Now, wheat is the hardiest. It's the strongest. It takes the drought the best. That's the number one go-to. But we don't have enough wheat to put on all of our lentil ground. Okay? And we can't go out and go buy a whole pile of wheat with what money we don't know, because we only had about a 2 bushel average across everything. This year has 1.5. And this particular field is 2 sections put together. And if you remember what a section is, it takes 4 quarters. 1 quarter is 160 acres. That's right, 1 quarter is 160 acres times 4 equals 640 acres to a section. This is 2 sections, all right? This field. Continuing talking about the chemical carryover, as I wanted to talk about. So previously last year, I'm getting confused because last year is technically 2021, but I keep thinking it's 2020 because I'm not used to 2022 yet. But so we actually had chickpeas out here, okay? See here, I can find, here, let me just zoom in just a little bit. So we had chickpeas the year before, okay? So that is a piece of chickpea branch. So that's right, it was chickpea stubble in 2020. I'm just gonna have to start using the years. It was chickpeas in 2020. Then we put Durum, right here, on top of this chickpea stubble in 2021, okay? Now, normally we would probably come back in with a lentil, because you got to remember, the brassica family, which is your canola and mustard, those are typically what we would want to come back in next. If we lived in a perfect world, you'd want to have a good pulse, a good cereal, and a brassica. Stay with the 3-year, you're fine. Chickpeas actually have to be on a 4-year rotation, okay? Chickpeas have to be on a 4. But in a perfect world, that's what you do. But you know that we can't grow canola because we just don't get enough rain down here. But at the end of the day, mustard is one of those crops like lentils that you cannot take Russian thistle and kochia out of. All you can really do with it is knock out a little bit of stinkweed maybe. Maybe you can get a little pigweed with the mustard toss and go or whatever the crap you want to throw in your tank, but you can definitely get your grasses out, but that's easy, right? That's the cheap part. But you can't really do much from broadleafs. Yes, you can throw out some edge and kind of like lentils and so on and so forth. But you have to pretty much treat mustard. We typically grow brown, but there's brown, yellow, and oriental mustard. Those are the 3 mustard options. Yes, you can grow those, but you don't have any weed control. Okay? So when you're working with a lentil and a chickpea and a mustard, both with very limited weed controls, that means that you can pretty much only get your weed control with your cereals, your wheat and your Durum, which is my pinky finger. That's not super good, guys, okay? That's the reason why we've swapped out of the mustard and replaced it with canola, because we have weed control with canola. If you're gonna have a 4-crop rotation, you have to have at least 2 crops that you have good weed control on. That way you can prep the soil for the following year for the 2 crops that do not have good weed control. Makes sense? Makes sense. Common sense. Common sense. We got this. You guys got this. So, continuing talking about what we're going to put here. We would normally put our lentils here this year, but we can't do that because, remember, we put the chickpeas here in 2020 and we sprayed a chemical called Authority. And I can't remember the active in it, but it is a group 14. And it is a carryover type chemical to help reduce kochia weed. All right, it does work pretty decent in kochia weed, not Russian thistle and some of the other weeds that we have problems with, but it does really help with kochia weed. So that would also spend the next year continuing its breakdown in the Durum. Not a problem. But since you didn't get any rain, it takes rain to break all these chemicals down. You always have to add an additional year to them. So we're going to have Authority carryover still in this field, and that would definitely smoke our lentils. Our lentils would not like that, just like our Durum would not like being on top of the lentil stubble, okay? And even if you could grow canola, which we already established we cannot really, not well, or a mustard, you definitely wouldn't put that on where you put the Odyssey, because it would also smoke the brassica family as well, unless it was a clear field canola, which is different. But again, you have pros and cons. You guys know that we get lots of wind down here. Wind is a problem. Blowy, 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 shaky, 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 windy, 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 windy. So if we're going to grow a canola, it's going to have to be like an Invigor, something that is got the pod shatter resistance. So that way it can go blowy, 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 shaky, 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 and not go and lose all your seeds on the ground. Right? Right. Makes sense. Well, you can't get that, not well, in the clear field canola. So as soon as it goes blowy, shaky, all your canola is going to go on the ground. So you want to just not even grow it, because it's all going to be on the ground. Ask me how I know. So we'll continue to do some updates once we get closer to seeding. And then obviously we'll probably put some cereals on top of cereals, because, why wouldn't we? We can utilize all that fertilizer that's still stuck in the ground. We can spend a lot less. And, every farmer hopes for the best year ever. And then if we don't get it, we're always like, well, we're next year country. That's just always what we say. But at the end of the day, being that it's so dry, we have to be realistic. We don't believe that our drought has broke down here, and we're going to need a lot of snow, or we're not going to get the snow, but we're going to need a lot of rain. We're going to need a lot of rain to replenish the ground. We don't have to have a lot of rain to grow a crop if we can get it timely, all right? But we have to be realistic, and we're not going to plan for a drought, but we need to budget for a drought, okay? You need to budget. Can you get through the year if you have another crop failure? No? Okay, well then, how could you get through the year with having another crop failure? What would you have to reduce, cut, or take out to get through the year? Because those are the questions that we have to ask ourselves. Because right now, it's not looking like it's going to be an awesome crop. Anything can happen. The tap can turn on in April 1st and not shut off. Because whenever it's going to break, it's going to go 180 the opposite direction. And then we're going to be like, holy crap, we can't get the crop in the ground. It won't stop raining. Or maybe it's going to start raining at crop spraying. We can't get our crop spraying done because it won't stop raining. Or maybe typically it always starts at harvest time. That's normally when the drought seems to break, is right at harvest time when you want to go combine. It won't stop raining. It's just downgrading all your crop. It's just turning everything to feed. It's sprouting out in the field. These are what happens to farmers, like we always hope for the best crop. Every farmer hopes and prays that, this is going to be the one. This is going to be the one. Lord willing, we are going to knock this one out of the park. It is going to be a home run. And if and when you don't get it, it's going to be like, well, we're always next year. We're always next year country. We'll get it next year. That's how we are. But we also have to be realistic, and we have to know that, can we get through with another crop failure? What do we have to cut out? What do we have to take out? And by putting our cereals on top of cereals, we can sure take out a whole whack of fertilizer. And that's a really good thing right now, because as you know, it's like 2.5 times the actual price. And so we got to look at all these things. So we'll do an update here later on. But as you can tell, there is no snow. We are dry. Okay? We're dry. So I'll catch you guys later. And I cannot feel my hands. Do not know why I don't wear gloves sometimes. But anyways, adios, guys. Oh yeah, crop rotations. Sorry about that. Almost slipped my mind. Crop rotations, like every farmer typically has a crop rotation that they like to kind of hold to, and you got to remember, crop rotations can vary depending on where you are. Do you farm in the Southwest? Do you farm in Central Saskatchewan? Do you farm in the US? Do you farm in New Zealand? Do you farm in Germany? What's your annual rainfall? What can you grow? There's totally a lot of different factors that would play into what establishes a good crop rotation for you, and also is it profitable? At the end of the day, when it all comes down, if it is not profitable, then somebody else at the end of the day is going to be farming your field. You could be the best farmer in the world. You could have a 27-year crop rotation if you would really like to, but is it profitable? Mike, it's not all about money. You're right, it isn't all about money. Farmers know that, literally. They literally live off the ground, and hopefully that they can make it next year. But if you're not profitable for too many years, then someone else is going to farm it. Right. So at the end of the day, is it sustainable? You know what? We should do a video on sustainability sometimes, because that is like a hot topic word. Sustainable. That's all I ever read. Sustainable. Is it sustainable? Is it good farming practice? Sustainable. What is sustainable farming? This is the video we should do. What is sustainable farming? At the end of the day, what is it from a practicality standpoint to what the publications are portraying it to be? What you guys, the consumers, are buying into? Because at the end of the day, you guys are buying into it. So what is that? What does that look like? We should do a video on that sometime. We definitely don't have time right now. But so yeah, you have to be adaptable. There has to be some common sense for crop rotations. Every farmer wants to hold to a certain, typically that's like a 3 or 4 year crop rotation. But when you get thrown weather anomalies, you have to be able to roll with bunches. You got to be able to adapt. That's part of farming. So we'll do what we can do. And at the end of the day, you always want to be able to make next year, because if you can't make next year, then what's the point? Right? Right. All right. You guys have a good one. Adios.